it's John from North Star Nursery, Garden and Home, your coastal gardener. So last week in the video I mentioned peonies, and I got some messages in that actual video, and I also got some direct messages from customers asking to cover peonies. Now, peonies are kind of a unique creature here on the coast because they actually don't get a lot of the frost that they would normally like on the East Coast where they grow like weeds. So we have to kind of handle them a little differently. And one of the things that we have to do is actually mimic snow. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about this. It's not really scientific. It's just what's worked here on the coast that we've tried. And that is pouring a 10-pound sack of ice over the top of your peony 3 times a year. I've made it so that it's holiday oriented, but the idea is during the winter season, you should be doing this. The holidays are Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. So if you get it on there at least 3 times, you're increasing the chill factor on that plant, which is going to increase the bloom production. So again, that's Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. 1 10-pound bag over the top of the plant. The plant may not be dormant at that point. Doesn't matter. So our 5-gallon ones are not dormant at all. They're actually doing the reverse. They're actually already sending up flowers, which is a little odd, but our environment is very unique, you might say, when it comes to growing things. These are what we call, it's a perennial peony. It's not a tree peony. So there are what they call tree peonies, it's kind of a misnomer. It's a little 8 to 10 inch stalk, and the branches branch from there above. They say that those don't require quite as much chill hours, but I've not had great luck with the tree peonies because they're too flopsy-mopsy with that kind of tall, well, not that tall, but a tall stem, and then the flowers get heavy, so they can break really easily. These generate from the ground up, so they have a great root structure. The interesting thing in doing research on this is that they say that gophers don't bother them traditionally. So they say that they may burrow around them, but that they do not like to that they do not like to eat them. On the other hand, above ground, I would steer far away from deer. So put it in a protected area where the deer can't get it because they will eat them. They're listed as deer resistant, but no, not here on the coast. We have unique deer, as you all know. So this one is actually setting up blooms. Peonies by nature are not cheap plants because they're what I call a high bench time. So they have to be in the growing grounds for a certain period of time in order for them to get to the blooming period. So our growers have to have them on site for a long period of time and manage them. So it is a little bit more laborious growing, and then selling them, they're a little bit more on the pricey side. These were some 1-gallon ones that we got last year. We actually bought them as a root during our, we had them available in our February bulbs. And so we planted them up. They are starting to go dormant, which is perfect. It's exactly what they're supposed to do. And we will be releasing these in the spring so that you can come and get them when they're up and happy. And we will plan on icing them for you. So there's that. The other thing is they aren't traditionally bothered by a lot of pests, but they do have a tendency, and I haven't seen it as much here, and we're right on the coast, but they say that they are, word twist, they get powdery mildew possibly. So if you do have some powdery mildew on them, you can certainly spray them. We would spray with neem once a week for 3 weeks. And make sure you get tops and bottoms of the leaves. And then if you wanted to, you could just go with the copper fungicide and spray once a week for 3 weeks also. make sure with all of these organics that you shake them really well before you use them, because a lot of the material will settle, and so you really want to make sure it is shaken, not stirred. I have to look at my notes. Fertilizer. So the research I was told, or the research I read, told me that you basically want to fertilize them twice a year, once after the blooms are done, which for us probably will be around May-ish, maybe June, depending on when they come in from other growers, because they might release them later. So June and August also are that kind of time frame. So after bloom, which May-ish, April, May-ish, and then again, June, July, August, just later on in the season. You don't want to fertilize them too much going into winter because they'll push a lot of new growth and that'll be wasted energy for the plant. The other thing is that they're relatively neutral as far as acid pH. They prefer more of a neutral spot in that. And you can neutralize your soil a little bit by adding baking soda. It's an interesting thing I learned. So you take a large tablespoon, heaping tablespoon into a gallon of water, mix it in really well, and water it on. So it's not that they hate acidic soil, they just may not perform as well in an acidic soil. The other thing you want to make sure is that if you do this baking soda trick, you do it in a month where you're not actually doing any fertilizing, because that fertilizer uptake will actually slow down with the neutralization of the soil. So I put down in my notes to do it like October and January. So that's a heaping tablespoon of baking soda into a 1-gallon watering can and watered onto the plant. If you are having them in pots, you don't really have to worry about that, because most of the soils that we get, or potting soils, are pretty balanced as far as the pH. So that's that. So fertilizer options. So everything that I read said to kind of focus on it being kind of balanced. You want to avoid a high nitrogen fertilizer because much like a tomato, they grow really well. They're very lush foliage-wise. And so you don't need to encourage that because it just does it on its own. You really want to focus on that bloom number. That bloom number is the second number in the series of numbers. So it's the middle one. This is a balance formula, so it's 555. This was pretty much what they recommend as far as your fertilizer. You could go with this one. This is rose and flower. This is 563. And so it is higher in the phosphorus, so it's going to push that bloom development. They also said you could use bone meal, and that would work. I would just caution you on bone meal because we have such a problem with critters, and you don't want them to dig it up. If you prefer to use a water-soluble fertilizer, the 1616 by Maxi would be a great option. What I would plan on doing is, as we come into maybe January, February, you could start fertilizing with this and then stop once it's blooming and then go back to fertilizing until the end of the year. This will get eaten up pretty quickly in the system. These guys have a little bit more lasting power, so you do have to reapply with the water soluble, but it's well worth it. Also, you can use the Maxi Rose and Flower Fertilizer. This one's a 3-20-20, so much lower nitrogen, much higher phosphorus, and so really great for bloom development. Okay, I think that might be it. I didn't go over pruning. So if you have plants that look rough like this, I usually just cut them down to the ground when they're done, and then they'll regenerate from the base. These guys, of course, aren't going dormant anytime soon, so I'm just going to leave them alone. But if yours are starting to look brown, wilted, reddish color, this is what's called fall ugly. So it's doing its fall color. And you can remove that once it's done doing that. So you can get it on the road to blooming. Alrighty, you guys. This is a perfect example of you guys telling me what you need. And I love doing videos that you guys need because, first of all, it gives me the opportunity to learn something new that I maybe didn't know and maybe do a little bit deeper dive on a plant that, sometimes I don't always get all the information. So thank you for that. And please, if you have any other questions that you want answered, by all means, leave me a message and I will work on it. It is a beautiful day out there. I hope you guys are having a good one, and we will see you at the nursery.